Okay, moving to questions. Adnaan, first one for you. And if you could answer this in a way where it's not salesy, please. We have a question which is, what's the cost of this software as a percentage of the project value?
Okay, that's a challenging one, right? Without doing it salesy, Rob. It just it's how do I answer that one without being at sales, Rob? It's usually it's a certain percentage, right? It can range from 0.06% to 0.07% of the project value. Obviously, the larger the project gets, the percentage gets less in terms of that. So obviously, there's some just to cite sales, but sometimes it's named users versus percentage value of the project, and I'll leave it at that kind of a thing.
Okay, all right, thank you. And then the next question we have here for Saji, possibly actually, Amin, you might also be able to answer this. Let's see, but Saji, for sure, this is directed to you. Of the 5 technologies you mentioned, I believe BIM may be the most used. Which is the second most used in CCC sites? And obviously, Saji, I'm thinking for your company as well.
I would say it's definitely.
Sorry, Amin.
I would say it's definitely digitizing our processes, because especially now we're updating all our softwares and we're trying to integrate them all together. So and going paperless is definitely an element that we cannot miss out on, because that's going to be the main factor that will allow us to integrate all those different systems together.
Okay, and Amin, is that something you can answer in terms of what's the second most used technology?
I agree with Saji as well. Digitalizing the whole process, starting from the support functions to the business operations, and also the technology of 3D laser scanning helped us a lot, as some or the majority of our projects, based on the nature of our services, are existing buildings or existing structures. It gave us a high level of accuracy data that we're going to build on in the project lifecycle.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions here where I'm not sure who they're for. If you've got questions that are specific to a person, please could you say which person they're directed to? Before I go to those, that maybe will give you a chance to add that. David, one for you is, which has come through on WhatsApp, which is about highlighting sustainability and digital innovation against the environmental challenges you face. I guess this is really referring to the fact that not damaging the footprint of your development is key, because it is the reason for your project.
Yep. So it's the question: how can digitization help with that? Okay. So look, this is what I spent a couple of minutes talking about, the context really. So digitization itself, there's ways to measure environmental impact and all the rest of it. But for me, it's more about using that as an enabler to then help other things. So a good example there is where we've used BIM, where we've used automation and some computational techniques as well. It's allowed us to strip out some waste in some of the work that we're doing. And that then becomes important when you're then working with somebody who can do modern methods of construction, and we're then able to. It makes it much easier to work in that way, to use off-site manufacturing where there's less environmental impacts, there's much better quality, and we can get it delivered to site and it's assembled in a much safer and environmentally friendly way. So to me, it's not so much about the digitization itself impacting, it's about what that then brings. I suppose if we're looking at the technology side itself, I think the example that I gave with the GIS portal, where we're using satellite imagery to look at what the impact of our works are on the site, and the environmental impact as well. I mean, there's a direct way you could look at it, but it's more for me, it's more about just opening up other opportunities to find different ways of working. It's not just about the environmental impact, it also allows us to go quicker, safer, faster, all that stuff as well. So it's more just about enabling newer, different ways of working.
And actually, with the modular side of things, it changes the way you train your workforce, does it?
So yeah, it does. And if you look at some of the partners that we're working with now, they're absolutely involved with us when some of these things arrive to site. They're helping our workforce work in a different way. So it's less about putting timber together and pouring concrete. It's more about how do we assemble high quality products together in a in a challenging environment. So again, providing some skills to the population there as well.
I mean, I think this question is for you because it popped up. It's a two-part question actually, and it popped up while you were speaking. So I think it must be for you, which is it's asking about the ROI of what you're doing. I think they're talking about the scan to BIM. So the return on investment and how it is helping construction productivity.
As I mentioned earlier, the outcome is remarkable. Scan to BIM technology enabled us in the structural condition assessment and structural rehabilitation projects, whether for existing structure or heritage buildings, to have accurate, high level of accurate data to build the project in it. If we take an example of a heritage project, you don't have any data for it. A very old building, maybe 100 or 200 years ago, you don't have any data, you don't have any references, you don't know what is inside the project. The designer is located and the owner or the client wants to redesign the space, for example. The designer is located in a different area. He doesn't, especially during the pandemic, he doesn't have the ability to come and see it by himself. You do the scanning, you publish the panoramic images on cloud, you give the accessibility whenever you are or wherever you are, you can access the images. You can build a complete 3D model with the existing condition, extract the quantities, materials, everything.
What I find interesting about what you're saying there is the fact that you're effectively, I don't know whether it's a full handover, but you're getting sign-off digitally, which is quite a radical change. And is that does that include for parts, assets within the building, or are you just talking about the basic infrastructure?
No, both actually, the basic infrastructure and the assets as well within the building. Later on, you can build on this model. If you start having a complete model with all the asset information data on it, you can extend it for the facility management or for the owner to later on perform the asset management or facility management process.
Okay, Saji, another question for you. When you mentioned the integration part within your presentation, were you talking about grouping the information in a common data environment? And if yes, what platform are you using?
We are still in the process of reviewing. We're still in the process of examining several platforms. We still haven't pinpointed the one that we're going to be using. So unfortunately, I cannot yet disclose this information.
How are you thinking then in terms of how you approach the common data environment?
So currently, for example, we have a separate platform for procurement, a separate platform for planning, a separate platform for plant and equipment. We plan to integrate those softwares together. That doesn't necessarily mean that we will be using a common software for everything, but that means that the different softwares are going to be able to communicate with each other. And for example, instead of issuing progress reports and then having to manually input everything from the weekly progress report into those different softwares, the softwares will be able to electronically pick up the elements from those reports and include them. And that will make us win a lot of time, and we will win a lot of lag time as well, because by the time you usually enter all those data into the softwares, the report is already out of date.
Okay, so it speeds things up.
Exactly.
All right. Looking at our poll, which is now closed, I can see that for which construction technology or process more than any other will be the primary game changer in construction, the people watching this felt it would be BIM, which was about 36%, followed by digital twin. Does that surprise anybody? Would you expect BIM to be considered the primary game changer?
The way I would see it is that BIM already has been around for quite a while now, and it definitely has been a game changer, especially on mega construction projects. And so far, it's been mainly focused on 3D, on the 3D element, which is the actual model, maybe sometimes 4D, which would include the element of time. But now more and more, it's going to go into more and more dimensions. So we're going to be including things like things like cost, procurement, sustainability. So definitely, it's by far the most advanced technology. However, another technology that we haven't really, I mean, I personally didn't touch upon here because it's something that we're still in the initial phases, but something that Adnaan mentioned, which is the use of big data. Because a company like us, we've been around for 70 years, and Adnaan mentioned the statistic, 96% of data we collect is unused. And it's very true. And I think most construction companies have a lot of data that they can leverage on in the future, especially when it comes to, let's say, all aspects of construction, whether it's from procurement to planning, all the way to delivering the project. Okay, great. And Adnaan, anything around there on BIM for you? Were you surprised or not surprised?
Not surprised in the BIM. It's obviously it's a way forward to having the BIM model in place. But I think one of the key things in any of these projects is having the correct level of detail of the BIM at certain stages of it, right? So, it's all great having a BIM model at the end of the project as built, but I think focus in the region should be as much as possible having the BIM model, ready at design, stage to hand over to the construction team with it full detail there, including all the mechanical, electrical, plumbing available. So I think a lot of time the BIM model isn't completed and it isn't fully functional and usable. So I think that's one of the challenges the industry faces, is the level of quality of the BIM models being created. And obviously the time it takes, because sometimes these projects are fast-tracked, and getting all the BIM models in place at the start is a challenge. So it's, in a perfect world, yes, it's all of these things would be great, but there's lots of challenges to get there.
Okay, and David, I know you're developing a digital twin. I mean, do you see it as a game changer for future projects and operation?
Yeah. So yeah, I'll sort of answer that a little bit wider, if that's okay. So I was surprised BIM is up there, but then also think then that's also because it also sort of reflects where the market is as well. So sort of listening to a lot of the some of the examples, I wonder how many of those have actually been focused in within the kingdom. I think, yeah, there's the technology has been around for a couple of decades, but it's still pretty much in its infancy here within Saudi. So I suppose on reflection, it doesn't surprise me that's the number one, because there's still a long way to go. And I think you can say the same there for digital twins. So digital twins been working with many years, and even some of those sort of regions or countries where they are more mature in the market, they're still a long way away. So could digital twin be a game changer? Yeah, I think it will be, certainly through operations. I think you've also got to look at remember I talked about technology push and customer pull before. I think that technology push is coming together now around digital twin. I think it's certainly a lot more achievable than it was even 3-4 years ago. I am sort of struggling a little bit with the different definitions that are going around at the moment. I think the definition is very clear, especially if you look at what's going on internationally. I think there's a real opportunity for that definition to be muddied by people trying to claim something that they can't actually do. But I do think that will be a game changer, but I think it's years away before that really matures.
Okay, interesting. And we've got 2 late questions in. I think Amin, I think possibly this one is aimed at you, but we'll ask them both at the same time, and then people can leap in very quickly, and then we'll close the session. So first question is, any potential digital applications for small-sized projects? And the second question is, what have you found is the weak point of digital twin technology? So I'll do those as open questions, and then we'll close once people have answered.
I think in terms of smaller size projects, just to add on to that, it's obviously, if you're building a one villa, as an example, it's very difficult to have all these aspects in there. But in terms of best practices for digitization, whether they're small, medium, mega, giga projects, you can implement it. Obviously, you know, it all comes down to budget of the companies implementing these and doing these projects. But there's no reason to do them, not to do them smaller projects as well, not just mega and giga projects, because principle is the same.
Okay.
Yeah, totally agree. We have also implemented scan to BIM in a very small scale project. It's a villa, and the maximum the benefit that we received from this implementation process is also remarkable. Interface or 3D coordination between project disciplines were messed up. And because of the 3D scanning and the modeling of the existing condition of the building itself, helped us to overcome these issues just before the construction starts.
Okay, and then on digital twin weak spots, could that be poor management of data, maybe? Anybody?
Yeah, so I think for me, from a technology perspective, if you look at some of the data sovereignty challenges that we have, I think that's going to be the until that becomes we overcome that hurdle. That's going to be in my opinion, the biggest challenge. That and there's people actually been able to show what they can actually do with live data. That there's a lot of people talking about digital twins, and what they're talking about is a nice 3D model. That's not a digital twin. I think when you talk to a lot of organisations and you really scratch away, there's actually very few that actually can really deliver that. And then if you double that down with the challenge of keeping the data within the kingdom, that's I think they're the two big ones.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for all your